Okay, looking at embodiment, nervous systems, we're going to look at emotional regulation and how kind of movement is a key, I think, to emotional regulation. There's lots and lots of models out there now of nervous system health. It's quite fashionable, I think, because it sounds scientific, right? If you say nervous system. I mean, I actually think it's just one way of talking about all the body systems, like hormonal systems and other things. I think it just sounds kind of scientific and nice to talk about. There's a bit of a trend of learning lots of neuroscience terms, and you say, this is the amygdala, or this is the, it's anterior central gyrus or cingulate or whatever. I don't think it actually helps very much. I think it just makes, it's just more of an authority claim. It just makes people sound like a scientist, so therefore you should listen to me. Yeah. So I think actually much more important than being able to name different parts of the brain is actually being able to be aware of, name, and change your experience. Does that make sense? So if we look at this as a skill set rather than propositional learning, which is learning about something, if we look at it as a skill set, learning to do something, I think that's more useful for people. Unless you're, studying anatomy and you want to do that, great. Sometimes it's fun to geek out, but it's not actually that useful for people in day-to-day life. Does that make sense? Yeah, so we're particularly looking at sort of emotional regulation and be another way of thinking about this, and the part movement plays in that. But first of all, just a very basic model of kind of nervous system well-being, much simpler than things that come up like polyvagal theory and dorsal vagal and all this kind of different things. And that maps on this absolutely fine, actually. But I think this model's even simpler for the more experiential sense of it. So we've got really just two variables here. If you're a consultant, a trainer, a coach, you have to have a 2x2. You're actually contracted with the devil to have a 2x2. It's just absolutely essential you have one. If you think what we're doing actually with a 2x2 is we're making a distinction. That's essentially what a 2x2 does. Because if you just had one thing, you have one distinction, it makes a new distinction to combine two things together. So that's always the purpose of a 2x2. And the distinction I'm going to make here is between the difference between relaxation and activation. Sometimes people think these are one thing. I feel good or bad. It's a very simple, it's a 1x1, right? So it's not a 2x2. So that's kind of a very simple way. And you'll hear people who are pretty basic in their level of emotional intelligence. They'll be like, I remember when I started, working class British male, when I was growing up, I had a Californian teacher. He'd say, okay, emotional check-in, Walsh, how you doing? And I'd say, fine. Or like, bad. That was about as good as I could do. I didn't really have the language, but I didn't have the emotional awareness skills. I just hadn't been taught it at school, and just not something most of us are taught. Now kids, my niece, for example, she got taught this in school. They have little cards and little smiley faces they can point to like this, That's just cool. But I didn't have those skills, so it's a little bit more complex than just okay, no, okay. That's like your most basic level. Another way of thinking about that is like valence. So we could add this a third variable, or actually, in a way, this one is kind of valence, like the relaxation correlates. Valence means positive or negative, so plus or minus for you. So relaxation correlates very strongly with this in human beings. So that would be another way of like happy, not happy. Okay, smiley face, not smiley. Do you want to draw some smiley faces on it? We could have some smiley faces, yeah. Okay, so if I was working with kids, or when we do in Ukraine, we have with the kids, we have smiley faces on there and stuff, yeah. So smiley, not smiley. But it's not just smiley, not smiley, it's also high energy, low energy. And this is a good distinction to have. I think this is the minimum distinctions you need to work with your own nervous system, yeah. What are we working with? We say awareness and choice. It's two things. Now, if you're a coach, it's awareness and choice, self and other. Now we've got into four things, okay? But for yourself, it's just you. So as a coach, you're aware of yourself and your client. Like, I'm facilitating right now, I'm aware of myself. This is decaf, so I'm going, okay, am I going very quick? How's my activation level? Am I tired because drunk people were keeping me awake last night? But I'm also aware of you guys. Like before the break, I was thinking, God, I've given you way too much information. You look exhausted already. It's time for I wasn't checking my watch for the break, I was checking you. I was going, okay, I think I've got 5 more minutes maximum before they start falling asleep or running away, yeah? So I'm aware of myself, I'm aware of you, and then I'm regulating myself. Okay, you can do that externally, like, I don't know, having a coffee. This is decaf, so probably won't do much, but that would be one way of regulating my energy levels. Yeah, I could use embodiment as well, though, right? I could do this. Yeah, that woke me up. Also, I just regulated you, who just woke up a little bit, whose energy level just went up because I made a noise. Yeah, I was making rude jokes. Now I'm being recorded. There are Americans on the internet, so I can't make any more rude jokes. Earlier I was making some rude jokes, and that was up-regulating you. You'd laugh, or I'd talk about kissing or something. It's a bit exciting. It's a bit up-regulatory. Yeah. Or I'd down-regulate you. So, one person was a bit upset earlier. I was just being nice to you, just being kind and saying you don't have to do anything and you can take a break. And, that's all down-regulatory, just being kind to people, using tone of voice, reminding people of confidentiality, these kind of things, right? So there's lots of mechanisms we can do that. A major one is the body. Okay, so imagine if I was like, okay, I'm here to talk to you about stress today. I'm your stress management consultant. Like that would actually just dysregulate you, right? So we understand that the body's... So there's a game I play when I've done talks all around the world. And I say, okay, look at me, everyone, touch your knees. Go, touch your knees. Everyone touch your knees, and everybody touches their elbows. 80 to 90% of people. Okay, why? Because even though your English is all very good here, Croatians have good English, actually, not young ones. Your English is good, but your brain is copying the body, not the words. Okay, so there's various studies on this. Mahebrin, it's very overstated, but I just find that's consistent. You can try that in your workshop. Say, touch your knees, touch your elbows. 90% of people will touch their elbows. Okay, so it's just very clear. And I've done that with thousands of people now, so it really is like you've seen me do this all in different places, right, every time. Okay, like sometimes there's like 1,000 people in an auditorium. I should have done a study on it. I could have got published, couldn't I? Okay, so so the body is a kind of key part of this. We've got awareness and choice. Let's just go back to ourselves. So awareness of my state. What are we aware of? These 4 things. So we're aware of really 2 variables. Okay, what's the level of relaxation, which correlates with valence, like happiness. It feels nice. Yeah, positive Vedana, they call that Buddhism, right? Basic. How does it feel? Good or not good, or neutral? And the level of energy. When I say energy, I don't mean anything esoteric like chi or like Yoda shooting anyone. I just mean the subjective potential for action. Yeah. So when you've got energy in the subjective sense, it's like I can do some action. Okay, it's like I want to get out of bed, I want to go for a walk, You've got lots of energy, you feel like you have to do something, right? You're like, I can't sit still. If you've ever been on a plane and you can't move and you've got loads of energy, you drink too much coffee or whatever, you're like, So this creates basically 4 states. Those we could map these on polyvagal theory neurologically, but I think it's actually less useful than being able to map them as they happen. So in terms of sort of emotional regulation, movements are key here. So if we have a low level of activation, okay, and a low level of relaxation, we're in a freeze response. Yeah, so it's freeze. Now that might be like a full traumatized freeze response, which is actually quite rare. It's often overstated, but more often than not, it's just sort of like a tightness. Yeah, like resentment can be in this state. And let's see resentment sometimes in Eastern Europe. It's like, try that in your body. Like a bit tight. Like those people who were loud and drunk last night, outside my apartment. Like, I don't like reality. Yeah, it's like spiritually, it's like God has made a mistake. Okay, so there's a sort of spiritual level here as well. It's lack of acceptance, if you will. Yeah. Okay, so you've got freeze response. Yeah. We could there's more complex states. So sort of flop response is like low energy, low tone, right? But that would be a more advanced model. Okay, as opposed to I'm relaxed, I've got low energy, but I'm radiant and expansive. Yeah, so this is what peace. For some people, it's a very familiar feeling. There's people that are just sort of naturally at peace. They're at sort of ease. They're not exactly exciting, but they're kind of nice to be around. They're pleasant. Some coaches are just very accepting, very loving. This is the sort of Mary image, kind of, in spiritual acceptance. Everything's cool, everything's okay. Yeah. In some ways, it's sort of like, Buddhist level, it's like the enlightenment is just being okay with what's happening. So you're not struggling against it. You're not running away from it or fighting it or doing any of that stuff. Yeah. So it's actually a very profound state. But on the most basic level, it's just like, I'm pretty calm, pretty relaxed. Yeah. We want to spend a good amount of our life in this state. If you want to be healthy, a good amount of your life needs to be in that state. Okay. All right. Stress, fight, flight. Fight, flight. Often I'd also put grasping in there. So our culture talks about fight or flight, which is I don't like it. I want to get away from it, or I want to kill it. It's the same thing. I don't like it. I'm going to run away. Okay. Physiologically, how is that? How would you recognize you were stressed?
Tension.
Okay, so you're tense in your body, so it's low relaxation on this way of doing things. Yeah, so your heartbeat, your breathing rate, your skin complexion, your eyes change. Talked about tense muscles. The most sensitive areas, eyes, mouth, and pelvic floor. Okay, if you're a coach, you probably won't see your client's pelvic floor. Okay, there is some coaching you can do that way, but it's not necessarily ethical. Okay, you will probably see your client's mouth. Okay, like resting bitch face we were talking about earlier. Yeah, the mouth will tighten up. Sometimes we talk about the Russian smile. Yes, this is the Russian smile. In polyvagal theory, it is dorsal vagal shutdown. Ventral vagal nerve is not innervating face. Yes? So you will see that in, you know what I mean? Yes, you do. Okay? Because the facial muscles are kind of innervated by the ventral vagal nerve, which is relaxing kind of the whole body, but the face is one of the areas it actually goes to. The heart is another major one, and the stomach is another. Yeah. So digestive issues, there's kind of health issues that come with this kind of, if you're more in that dorsal vagal shutdown. Okay, doesn't that sound clever and scientific when I say dorsal vagal and ventral vagal? You see how it works? It's impressive, isn't it? Doesn't fucking help. Okay, so stress is when we're in that fight or flight response, also a grasping response. So we don't talk about this in the West, our entire economic system is based upon it as a coincidence. This is where we're trying to get something. It's, I'm not okay, I've got to get something. Does that make sense? Like, imagine you really wanted this coffee and you hadn't had a coffee all day and you were desperate for a coffee because you're a massive coffee addict. You'd be looking at it like this, right? You wouldn't be, coffee. Yeah, you'd be, I want it. I've got to get it. I've got to have it. That's also not a relaxed state. We tend to think of kind of getting what you want as exciting, but sometimes it's more like relaxing. It's like, okay, finally. If you're agitated, you've got to get food because you're starving or whatever. Yeah? So grasping is an off-center wanting. So it's very natural to have needs, desires, we're all human beings, but as soon as you lose that physical center, and I mean that quite literally, like your head is not over your hips. You're off balance. So there are physiological signs when you're in a grasping response, like tension and lack of balance. Yeah, this is how you notice it. We have very concrete physiological things. It could be the heart rate, the blink rate, it could be the balance, the tension. You can get better at noticing these things. Yeah, if you can get better at noticing, then you can say, yes, darling, I am hungry. We should stop for lunch before I say so. Yeah? My day yesterday, okay? So we both noticed my slight agitation, yeah? Okay, so the one people tend to miss is a play response. Okay, for some reason this is not talked about very much. People often talk about being relaxed, like a yoga studio we're in now. It's all about this, right? It's all about being relaxed. And that's why yoga teachers use the international yoga voice, which is very spiritual, because they're constantly relaxing you and down regulating you the whole time. Equally, you could sound like a late-night radio love DJ. You see, because it's all down regulatory, right? So we're all trying to get people into this state, which is fine. If you're in this state, this is a nice place to go, right? It's a nice place to go, as opposed to just collapse and exhaustion. It's a nice place to go. So you need strategies to move from this to both of these, and from this to both of these. Yeah. So, but what peace doesn't have is activation, movement, right? Like eventually this would be a boring date. I love you, you love me, we're happy together, this is very nice, everything's great, everything's relaxed. Eventually, like, just grab me already. Like in Brazil, women talk about a man's pegado. Anyone speak Portuguese? A pegado means he's taking. It's like, does he grab you? It's like, does he seize you? Right? It's got a bit more action in it. Does this make sense? Everyone love a nice pegado? Okay, it's important that a man has a good pegado, right? It's like his ability to grab you, right? In a consensual, so play has activation. Think about little kids when they're having fun. They're not just calm, are they? They're a birthday party. It's like one of the things I do with my niece and nephew, particularly when they're younger, is I pretend to kill them. Okay, it sounds bad, doesn't it? You're thinking, what a terrible monster I am. Yes, literally, I would pretend to be a dinosaur and I would pretend to eat them. Okay, or I have a pretend chainsaw. Vroom, 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 and I would chase them with the pretend chainsaw. And they go, they run away, right? But they love me and trust me. They know I'm not actually going to kill them with a pretend chainsaw. Okay, so then if I stop chasing them, what do you think they do?
Run into you.
No, they come back. Yeah. They come back. You're going to kill us, Uncle Buck. Because they want some activation, right? They want some excitement. Now, they also like it when they go, everything's fine. The peace. They like peace sometimes. But generally what you're doing with kids is you're moving between relaxation and activation. Yeah, you chase them with the chainsaw and they run and go, it's really exciting and fun. Or you turn them upside down, you go, I'm going to shake you till your brains come out. Okay, and the mother goes, and the kids love it. The kids love it. That is, by the way, an uncle's main job is exciting kids so the mum can't get into bed to sleep afterwards. Okay, so that's your main job, is like you add that like fun and activation. Being an uncle's amazing, I love it. Okay, they're getting a bit big now before it, but it's my niece will still make me hug her upside down, but she's 14 now, so it's quite this big young person, yeah. Okay, but why does she want an upside down hug? Because it's more fun, it's more activating. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, but if she didn't feel safe with me, she wouldn't just go to a random bloke and be like, pick me up and turn me upside down, yeah, because that wouldn't have the relaxation, would it? Does that make sense? So, good play, also good flirting. Okay, good flirting is also, it's like, it's not just nice, it's also a little bit edgy. It's a little bit cheeky. It's a little bit like fake insulting each other. Some people take this too far and they just, insult each other, but it's that play backwards and forwards. Yeah, so it's down regulation, up regulation. Key thing for the state of play, which is one of the main ones to be happy and healthy and wholesome in life, is there's a degree of activation as well as relaxation. So this sort of standard model most people have is either I'm tense or I'm collapsed. Could add collapse down here, freeze. So they run around at work and they're super, super stressed, so they're not relaxed, they're not happy. Okay, and then even they drink loads of beer and just go blah. Okay, could add that there. So it's very low energy. Make sense? So it's low energy, low tone is collapse, low energy, high tone is freeze. Yeah, but they're both negative valence, low energy, let's say. You with me? Okay, so what is the art of happiness, the art of life in terms of nervous system health and regulation? It's being aware of this and being able to move these states. Okay, if you do that with external things, you'll become an addict. Okay, if you can learn to do that at least some of the time, and we all have our little things we do, like I eat some sugary food if I'm depressed sometimes, but if we do it too much, we become addicted to external things. Yeah. Also, the external things are not always available. They often have diminishing returns. Okay, so you have a drink, the next day you need 2 drinks, before you know it, it's a bottle of wine a night. Yeah. 1 bottle of wine, this is Croatia, 2 bottles of wine. Okay, you're going to up the ante. So, what do we need to do? We need to learn mechanisms, things we can do in our own body that are within our control, that are wholesome, not addictive, to help manage these states so we can create more peace and more play. Yeah, there's different time frames of that. So, for example, trauma therapy means you're just not stuck here from as a result of trauma, so you're actually long-term able to come here more. Trauma's being stuck in these states, one definition of trauma. Yeah. Culturally, we might have some places we're allowed to do things, some kind of issues there. Personally, we have a different personality. Who here is more play? Who here is more peace? I'm more play. I'm the most fun trauma educator in the world. Yay. Okay. Not the best, not the wisest, but I'm definitely the funniest trauma teacher in the world. Okay, and it's because unlike most trauma teachers, I'm more here. They're very nice, they're very calm. Gabor mate, everything's going to be okay. You're perfect how you are. Everything's all good. Whereas I'm more here. Yeah. So this is more stylistic. All right, we have a bit of an emphasis on here, or something like the good meditation teachers, the Tara Brachs and people, they're more on the peace front than the play front. You wouldn't necessarily invite them to your house to liven up the party, but no offense, Tara, okay? But they're very calm, they're very nice to be around, they're very pleasant. Does that make sense? So who thinks they're more on the peace front? Who's quite calm, chill? Lucia's got that going on. Yeah, that probably means you're also more prone to freeze and shut down, yeah? Okay, who's like me? Who's more on the play front, more high energy? Whoop, get the party started. Okay, we're probably more prone to stress. I'm kind of grumpy. I'm kind of irritable. Not all the time, but that's where we go, yeah? Okay, so we could also look at this spiritually as well. If you're more on the peace front, you're more likely to sort of be a bit placid, a bit non-active, a little bit too accepting. Yeah, so you haven't got that yang energy. And if you're more on the play front, you're more likely to have that yang energy, but you'll be more resentful, frustrated. Impatient is one of my character flaws, wouldn't you say, darling? I'm not that patient. It's that's because high energy, right? It's I'm not the most patient person, right? So we can also identify some of our virtues through this. Yeah, I'm good with kids, I'm fun, I'm able to play, it's part of my virtue, I'm interesting as a trainer, blah, 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 hopefully. But then we also can look at our vices, yeah, so our vices as well. So impatience is definitely not my strength, yeah. I was about to send a really unpleasant message to the Airbnb people this morning, and I had to remind myself, hang on a minute, I did choose an apartment in the centre of town. This is at least half on me, maybe she could have told us, but okay, So it's coming into a bit more peace before sending that message. Does that make sense? It's just a little micro example. Okay, so we track this in the body. Body awareness helps, and then we have various body skills, like we talk about centering in other videos. Key thing for movement and emotional awareness. So movement takes us out of freeze, right? If you're someone that's in the shutdown, a lot of like yoga or meditation is all about being calm. You're already calm. Okay, the problem is you need more activation. Does that make sense? Yeah. Equally, co-regulation, people always think of in terms of calming people down, the yoga voice, the counselor. Co-regulation is also exciting people, inspiring people. You hear a good talk on the YouTube, I have more energy now. I want to go to work. I've been upregulated, I've been inspired. Yeah, so how do we inspire ourselves, and if we're teachers, trainers, others? So movement, I think, is a key part of this, because movement can actually do two things. Movement, when we're in stress, can kind of burn off the adrenaline. If I'm in anger, I can go for a walk and I'm not angry. Right? I've just got rid of that charge, that fight or flight, that adrenaline's got somewhere to go. Yeah. Now we've got to be careful, because a lot of old school body therapy was like hitting things, and I go, okay, now you're just practicing anger. So you've got to be a little bit careful, because some people, there's a discharge model, which has some truth in it, but there's also a practice model. So I know people have done a lot like screaming and shouting, men's work or women's work, and they're rah, rah, and they're not any less angry afterwards. Okay, they're actually just got better at being angry. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we've got to be a little bit careful. Are we in a practice model or a discharge model of emotion? Both have truth in my experience. Sometimes it is really good to get someone to that place of anger, so maybe they can bounce off it and collapse and come into despair. Yeah, and get out the other side of it, or just because they've never been angry before, it's actually going to be really useful for them to learn that. Some people here really could do with screaming and shouting and hitting things with a stick. Yeah, so that's quite a fun practice. Some people do it with Thai pads and things. Tends to be though the people that don't need it are the ones that like doing it, right? Because it's comfortable for them already, so they love it. Of course, and anger, by the way, feels good because it's a high energy state. Anger's harder to let go of. Than this. Why? Because it's at least energizing. In that righteous anger, they are an asshole. Did you ever have that? Someone on the internet is wrong. I'm not coming to bed until I've told them they're wrong. It's like there's a sort of energy to that, isn't there? Right? So even though it's unpleasant, it's still energized. Yeah. So sort of unpleasant and low energies is much harder. It's sort of easier in a way to let go of, because it's just not giving you much. Anger and fear are at least activating. They get you towards or away from something. Okay. So movement can also be about letting go of stress, shaking it out of the body, something like TRE, or something simple as going for a walk. Okay. And movement can also be a way of waking ourselves up. How many times have I felt a bit depressed and I've been analysing myself, and I just go for a walk in nature, bit of movement, bit of nature, eco up-regulation, we could call that. I look at the beautiful Croatian countryside, or I'm on the coast right now, it's very nice by the sea, the wind's in my hair, and it's just, I'm not depressed anymore. Didn't need to analyse my relationship to my mother. It was literally just a very physical bit of movement, bit of nature. We could talk about the meaning side of things later as well. Does this make sense? So it's a very simple model, and you can look at where are my current skills, what do I need?